So here we are with the latest head-to-head then, as Tom McGarry tries to argue the case for Arsenal. We've got Jack Ogalbe looking at Tottenham. It's the North London derby, of course, a 4:30 kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Looking at the odds, Arsenal at 71 to 50 to win, Spurs at 39 to 20. The draw available at 71 to 25. Let's get into this one then. What case can you make for Arsenal to win this one, Tom?
Well, Arsenal have a really good home record against Tottenham in the Premier League in particular. They haven't lost any of their last 7 league games at the Emirates against Spurs, winning the last 2. There's been a couple of impressive results in there as well. A 4-2 springs to mind in 2018 where Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored a brace. Arsenal also, I think, over the course of the start of this season, they started with back-to-back wins for the first time in a decade, lost to Liverpool last week and received a bit of criticism for the way they set up against the Reds, but I was actually quite impressed. It was a different take from Unai Emery, and particularly with the pace they had on the counter-attack up front with Nicolas Pepe introduced to the team. I think there's a refreshing look to this Arsenal side. Contrast that to Spurs, and they've stagnated over the opening weeks of the season, particularly against Newcastle last week. They're on a bit of a downward trend at the moment, when I think Arsenal are upbeat, positive, and can have a really good season, and they can really reignite that campaign if they can get a positive result on Sunday.
Well, plenty of positives coming out of the Arsenal camp then, Jack. Spurs obviously looking to bounce back from that defeat against Newcastle that Tom mentioned. What case can you make for them?
Well, it was a frustrating afternoon, wasn't it, for Tottenham against Newcastle, but they're the type of side they struggle against. I saw the Liverpool-Arsenal game, and they're the positives I'm going to take. Arsenal, I thought, were poor at the back, and they came out and played against Liverpool, which I thought was a big mistake, and that'll play into Spurs' hands. It'll allow them space to play in. Newcastle were very compact in their defence. That is not in Arsenal's makeup, and I think with the likes of Son and Harry Kane, Arsenal are going for a tough afternoon.
Well, that's both sides making their cases then for the outright win in this game. I am going to go with Tom on this occasion. I'm going to lean towards the home side. Just the fact that Arsenal have got a pretty good home record against Spurs of late, I think that will just get them over the line in this game. So into round 2 we go then, and this is where we look at potential goal scorers in this match. The North London derby has offered up a fair few goals over the years, as derbies often can do. Last season, thinking back to this tie, it was a 4-2 win for Arsenal. We saw Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of Arsenal persuasion getting a couple of goals. We saw Harry Kane get on the score sheet for Tottenham. Both of those up and running with a couple of goals apiece in the Premier League already this season. And I suppose we'll be looking at Aubameyang to score again, won't we?
Yeah, it's hard to look beyond him. He's got a fabulous record since coming to the Premier League. 2 in 3 so far this season. He was the joint leading scorer in the division alongside Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah this last term, so I think he is the obvious candidate. At 13 to 10, it's not necessarily the greatest value, so if you wanted to look elsewhere, Nicolas Pepe for me would be a really big shout. The big question mark, is he going to start a second big game in a row after signing in the summer? If he does, I think he can benefit from a Spurs side who need to get a result, so they'll be pushing forward, trying to get on the front foot. That'll leave space in behind for someone of Pepe's pace to exploit. We saw him give Virgil van Dijk a bit of the runaround during the first half of the match at Anfield last weekend, so I fancy him to do something similar. 21 to 10 is a really tempting price for him to score any time. As I say, Aubameyang probably the obvious candidate, but Pepe would be someone to certainly have a look at.
Well, a couple to consider there for Arsenal. Are we looking past one man for Tottenham?
You can't look past Harry Kane, can you? 9 Premier League goals in 9 Premier League games against the Gunners. We've all seen the pictures of him wearing an Arsenal shirt as a youngster. He's a totally Spurs man these days, and I think he'll really fancy himself. It looks like Socrates and David Luiz will be the back 2 in the defence for Arsenal, and I don't see any comparison between them and Kane, really. I think Kane's quicker, stronger, smarter, everything than those two. And I think he's going to have a successful afternoon at the Emirates.
Yeah, I think I do have to agree with Jack this time around, so I'm going to level the scores up at 1-1. So difficult to see Arsenal keeping Harry Kane at bay in this game. So to round 3 then, and we look at total goals in this match. As we've already mentioned, 6 goals shared between these two in this clash last season at the Emirates. Are we looking at a high-scoring game again, Tom?
I think so. Entertainment is certainly on the cards. This is probably the most eye-catching game of the weekend in the Premier League, not just because it's a big North London derby, but also because usually when these two sides meet, there are a lot of goals. There's been 4-4s in the past, particularly at the Emirates. Actually, there's a bit of a quirk in the fixture list. There's a lot more entertainment when they meet there than there is when they've met previously at White Hart Lane and what will go on to be the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season. So I think there will be plenty of goals. I'm looking at over 3.5 in the contest. It's available at 37-25, which is decent value, I think, and I certainly could see a lot of goals. The last 0-0 in the fixture between the two teams at either stadium was back in February 2009, so over a decade ago. Usually both teams score, usually it's entertaining, so I think that will be the case.
Jack, agree with that one? Goals expected?
Yeah, plenty of goals for me. I think over 4.5 at 16-5 is a really, really good price. We saw the 4-2, unfortunately, Arsenal victory last season. I think it'll be, again, another open and exciting match. You mentioned the Emirates factor. It seems to bring the best out of these two sides, and I think it's going to be a goal fest as well.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think we are in for an exciting day at the Emirates, especially down to the fact it's early season as well, and sometimes the shackles are off a little bit when you do get these games coming in this early stage. I'm going to go towards Tom with that one, with the over 3.5. I think we might be pushing it a little bit towards the over 4.5, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get an exciting game. So we'll finish off then with some score predictions from the duo alongside me. Tom, what are we looking at?
I'm feeling a 3-1 Arsenal. Those goals over 3.5 there, and Aubameyang and Pepe to get on the score sheet.
And Jack?
I love a bit of value. 52-1 for Tottenham to reverse last season's result at 4-2, but I think 3-1 Spurs.
Yeah, both going for the big goals then. Well, do make sure you follow us on social media. That's it from myself, Tom and Jack today. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube as well.